Hey guys, how's it going? CoderMan here. In today's video, I'm going to go over the 10 quirks that I have found with the Lightning. Now, this is not clickbait, and this is not me crapping on this vehicle. These are just things that, as an owner of this for about 4 months now, these are things that have, I've kind of noticed and wanted you guys to know as you're waiting for your deliveries. So first off, let's just get the range-related and driving-related things out of the way. First off, I'm at 73 miles. I'm a little bit better than 50% on the battery, give or take. Well, this is supposed to be a 230 mile range battery. However, if you look over here in the corner, it's about 35 degrees right now. For those in colder climates, unfortunately, this vehicle is going to be problematic if you drive in the winter a lot, because your range gets cut pretty drastically. And honestly, this isn't even super cold, right? 35 degrees, if I was, say, in Wisconsin or something, it can become negatives real fast. So, right off, EV is just not ready for prime time when it comes to winter. So number 2 on this list is both a interesting thing and a quirk. Of course, it's the Frunk. Everyone's seen it. One thing is it takes forever to open, but that's whatever. The issue I have here is the way that it's designed for the front of the vehicle is you kind of have this curvature right here. Well, you also have this bump out for the wheel well, and then of course on the other side as well. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is you really can't have a lot of boxes or anything, really big or bulky. You can have bags, you can have lots of bags, in fact. However, if you start to have things that come from, say, like right here to about here, well, this curvature, there's obviously nothing that's going to be rigid, box, toolbox, things like that. So you have to kind of put it in the middle. Then the other thing is, if you look at right here, there's a pretty beefy latch system that completely covers here. So as a result, you lose all this as well. So it's a truck, it has a frunk, that in of itself is kind of cool. However, you got to kind of be mindful of what you're storing in here, simply because there's just not as much space as you think. Of course, you do have your power plugs, but this is not a video of the features of this truck. But this does come in handy when you are out and about. Okay, so this next one, it's a cold day, it's a warm day, whatever kind of day it is. You're bougie, you don't want to go to the vehicle, and you want to remote start it. Well, there's the key fob. There's no remote start. There's no remote start option. There's no button on the back. There's no other fob. There is no way to remote start this vehicle from the key fob. You have to use the app, which I'll show here. Now, of course, you can use the app. Everyone has their phone. Actually, in fact, you can use your watch too. I can show that. But why is it not on the key fob? Why can I not double tap the lock button, or hold for 2 seconds, or some sort of combination that would cause this to actually start that? It's kind of funny because I've had really inexpensive vehicles. The TSX was one of them, and it had a remote start from the factory. So it's just kind of interesting that this vehicle has a remote start. It has the ability to be started remotely. However, you cannot do it from the key fob. So just another one of those, what was Ford thinking? Now, this next one I have to just tell you about because I'm sure it's not going to do it while I'm on camera. The infotainment system, or maybe it's sync, or maybe it's the driving, I'm not exactly sure what it is, will just randomly have a chime. It's similar to the chime for like your seatbelt's off, but it's just a single ding. And it's not consistent. Sometimes it won't happen for days. Sometimes it'll happen as soon as I start the vehicle. It's not specific to, say a battery warning or a climate control or a sync issue. It chimes. I have no idea what it is, and I don't want to say it's annoying. It's definitely a quirk, because you're just driving around and all of a sudden your vehicle just chimes, and as a result you're like, well, what am I supposed to be looking at? But there's nothing here, there's nothing on the display, there's nothing on the sync. So I don't know, it's just kind of one of those things that that one's actually more frustrating, because you kind of think like, whoa, something's wrong, tire pressure, anything. Nope. No warnings, no idiot lights, nothing. Just here, have a chime for good measure. So if you have any clue what this is, maybe you own a Lightning or you've seen it on the forums, please tell me what it is and I will buy you a coffee. Next up, we have the doors. Now, this is more so for the rear door, but if you see, there is quite a bit of weather sealing, which is a good thing, right? That actually is an advantage. However, that door shuts nice and tight. This one here, I don't know if it's maybe my design or what, or excuse me, my actual, you know, vehicle. But the weather stripping seems to be a little bit more bulky here. And as a result, if you were to close this like you would a normal door, just like that, half the time right here, it'll get jammed up and you'll get a notice inside saying that the door is open. It, of course, isn't going to do it on camera because it's like bringing your car into the mechanic. But let's go ahead and try it on this side real quick. You know, and I'm not talking rifle these doors shut. I'm just talking a normal, like, just close it. And of course, it's not going to happen this time. But what ends up happening here is that weather stripping seems to get bunched up. And as a result, you will get a warning on the dashboard, which in this case right now is just saying no key detected. But, you know, if I close, see, there you go. That right there. Use the same amount of force, and for some reason it just didn't close all the way. Not specific to the Lightning, aside from maybe they used really thick weather seals. Trade-off being that it's extremely quiet in the cabin. So unfortunately, I guess I will just shut the door a little harder. Like I said, this is definitely not a complaining video, just odd things that I've found owning it. And more often than not, it's my kids that don't shut the door all the way. Okay, this one's gonna kind of be a 2-for for quirk of this vehicle and potentially quirk of charging stations out on the road. But the concept is that you plug in and you enter your credit card details, or the truck actually will automatically bill you, which is actually super helpful. However, the interesting thing is that when you're on a fast charger, which uses this, you know when this is closed, this second plug, that's for your CCS, which is your 150 kilowatt hours. The vehicle will tell you to charge to 90%, and it'll give you an estimated time to completion. However, for those who don't know, when you're at a vehicle charger, they slow down to almost half at 50%, or excuse me, 80%. So the last 10%, the vehicle progressively just increases the estimated completion time. Now, you can go in the system and change your total charge, your limit. So I can change it to 80%, 60%, 100%, whatever I want. But I find it interesting that Ford defaulted to 90% charge, knowing full well that when you get past 80, it's going to get cut in half, and your quote leave time is going to be seriously extended. So another quirk is, you'll see on the left hand side I have the range, but if I go ahead and zoom out and show the controls, I have these different screens, and I can go through, like tire pressure, driver's assistance, all these different things. But there's one here, calm screen. If I choose that, and everything will basically disappear, now you'll see the battery percentage. However, if I go back to, the normal screen by hitting menu and then my view, the actual percentage, granted, is that blue line, but the actual numerical value is not there. The other thing that's really strange is that this will not tell you your kilowatt usage until you shut the vehicle off, and it'll tell you about your trip. In just a section after this animation, it'll tell me how much kilowatts I used for this trip, which granted, this was not a long trip. So it's just kind of strange that you can't manipulate this view and be able to see the most important information when you have an electric vehicle. I can't really say if this is a quirk or a cool feature, but if you are running the climate control and you join a call, so let me crank this up, right? You can hear that, right? That's super loud. If I were to join a call right now, it will automatically tame it down, which in one side is cool because obviously if it's, super loud, people can't hear you. Now, one thing that is nice is you can change the auto setting, so the fan speed limit. So what you could do is you could keep it on low and it could never rise, or, I just keep it on high. But it's an interesting thing. I would still qualify it as a quirk, although I think it's actually useful, especially when I'm in the car most of my life and I can take calls and people can actually hear me. So I guess that's kind of important. Keeping with the climate and audio system and whole climate control system rather, if I go ahead and turn that on, which currently it is not, so now I have it on, and I come down here and I choose an option, say like, I don't know, I'll change that there. I actually get options right here. So this is cool, but also annoying because I wish I could just like double press this and have it say, do the defrost or the position of the air. I try not to look at the screen while I'm driving. I'm not sure about you, but at the same time, I guess it's kind of cool because they can obviously change, they can change the software. One thing I do like about this is that I have the, here I have the e-heat, which if you haven't seen what that is, oh, that didn't work. Let's try that again. Well, it's supposed to tell you the information about it, but for some reason it's not. There we go. Wow. Okay, new quirk, live. The climate control system is buggy. There you go. So this is actually a cool thing. It uses electric heater to warm up the cabin. And if you that's awesome. But if you're trying to save battery power, you can of course turn that off. But if I go back over here, we have driver focused. So what it ends up actually doing is primary of those vents. So if you're just driving here by yourself, that's obviously helpful. And then you have your traditional, climate controls. You have a defrost and where it's located. Everything goes through this screen, which I guess is kind of cool, but at the same time, it can be quite frustrating if you're just quickly trying to change something, especially when the system gets buggy like you actually just saw live. So here's one for the family people out there. If you have these kind of seat belts, or excuse me, these kind of seats, then you can just use the traditional three-point connection. However, if you go ahead and pull this and release the seat, you'll notice an interesting thing about the back of these seats. There is no latch. There is no latch connection in here. It's actually, and this is interesting in and of itself, but it seems like it's here. However, this is a strap, and I am not an expert in child safety or child seats or things of that nature, but this does not seem like it's a latch. And, actually this here is supposed to be covering this. So what we end up doing is this is actually welded to the truck. So we ended up using this, and you can see it's a little scratched up as a result. We don't have, a car seat that needs a latch in here all that often, but when it's necessary, there's no latch. There's nothing down here. That's actually the sticker for the seat. There's nothing down here. This is your roadside piece, roadside assistance piece. So just something to think about if you're thinking about having kids in the back. And I say the best for last because it is not super important, but it's interesting nonetheless. These are windshield wipers. You're probably familiar with them. Yes, EVs have them as well. However, if you look right there, there's a rain sensor. Actually, that's the security sensor. If you look right there, it's the rain sensor. These are what I would refer to as sometimes rain sensing wipers. So if it's a downpour, they'll trigger. If it's a little bit of rain, they won't. If there's glare on the windshield, they'll trigger. So it's it's an interesting kind of paradigm where it's like, hey, I have rain sensing wipers. However, they're not consistently useful. If I go into the vehicle, there's obviously on the stock, there's a whole bunch of settings. This one, and this one really don't do anything. It's until this one that it kind of becomes more, useful for the rain sensing. And you also need to go inside of the sync screen. You need to actually enable the rain sensing setting because for some reason from the factory, it is not included. All right, so there you have it, the 10 quirks of my 2022 Ford Lightning. This is the XLT model with the standard range battery. I don't think anything specific on this list to that, but I guess maybe the exception of the battery range. Although if you have the extended range, I'd be curious to know how much are you dropping in the winter? Because I'm seeing between 30 and 40%, which is pretty drastic for what I would figure mild cold temperatures for the winter. But as always, I appreciate you guys checking out these videos. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.